Gonna do it like me, cause there ain't nobody like me. Can't nobody do it like me. You ain't seen nothing like me, oh, like me.
What is up, Alex City, and welcome back to Spokast. I have an amazing episode for you today. Today, I interviewed Reinaldo Gil Zambrano. He's an award-winning printmaking artist based right here in Spokane. He's originally from Caracas, Venezuela, and I talk all about how he came to settle here in Spokane, all about his practice as a printmaking artist, and about all the other things he has going on. He is also an assistant professor of printmaking at Gonzaga University. He is the co-founder of Spokane Print and Publishing Center, and he is also the Spanish-speaking host of the very popular podcast, helloprintfriend. This was just an amazing conversation that's been long in the work. I met Reinaldo about a year ago when he came to use my studio when he did an in-person interview for his podcast, Hello Print Friend. And I've been trying to get him on the podcast for a really long time, and it finally happened, but it also happened at a perfect time because as we're listening to this on March 13th, we get to talking about Spokane Print Fest, which is an event he helped start, and it takes place all throughout the month of April with multiple events across, a ton of different places. They did the main show at the Spokane Library's Hive out on Sprague, but there's also going to be some other breakout events at Terrain and other places around Spokane, and he's just super, super involved in the print community here in Spokane, and we just talk, like I said, all about that and how he came to create this amazing community within our city. It's such a cool story. His story is very unique of how he came to be in Spokane, and he's just a genuine, amazing human being. And I know I've said that multiple times on already, but it cannot be said more because I get to meet all these great people, and I know that they're good people. But then when you get to sit and have a conversation with them about what they are passionate about and what they love, you just get to see the side of people light up and talk about their passions, and it's so exciting to see that and to see what he's doing in Spokane and what he'll be doing here for years to come. He's like I mentioned, he's a professor at Gonzaga, so he's on the track to be a tenured professor there. So I got a feeling we're going to see a lot from Reinaldo over the course of these next, hopefully, decades of just seeing his art grow. And I'm really looking forward to you be able to listen to this interview. It was a lot of fun. But before we get into the interview, I got to say thank you to all of my amazing Spokastanites, my Patreon supporters. I say this every week too, but I cannot do this podcast without you. I know I'm slow on the content on Patreon, but really the money that I'm receiving from my Patreon supporters is all going directly back into Spokast and is really helping me create this podcast on a weekly basis. And I've also teased this a lot, that with the support that I'm getting, I'm going to be announcing where that money will be going to monthly here very soon. I have a lot of big news coming up in the next month or so, but this is a really big piece of it, and I can't wait to unveil what this next stage of Spokast is going to be like, and it really is directly impacted by my Patreon supporters, and I just can't thank you all enough. Those Patreon supporters are Elizabeth Geyer, Amanda Kerr, Abby Pointer, Lee Wick, Gina Campbell, Tyler Poole, Joe Van Voorhes, Pamela Smith, Briscoe, Sarah Thorpe, Judy Pointer, Zach Hawkins, Amber Sparks, Luke Baumgarten, Pila Hollenberg, Valerie Ossier, Alex Leah, Nick Spanger, and Elizabeth and Bill Pointer. Thank you all so much. If you want to become a Patreon supporter and help me grow this podcast even more, please go to patreon.com/Spokast and sign up for one of my 4 tiers and help support and grow this to even bigger heights. Higher heights? That's probably what I should have said. But thank you all again. It means a lot. And again, I do have a lot of big news coming up in the next month or so. I'm not sure exactly when I can announce all this stuff, but it's all happening and it's all very exciting and it's cool. But today, as I'm recording this, is March 12th. You're listening to it on March 13th. I just got out of a really cool interview with a podcast I helped produce called The Perimeter with Adam Morrison, and he just interviewed Drew Timme in probably what was one of the biggest interviews Adam's ever done on the show. Definitely one of the biggest interviews that ever happened in this studio. And it was an honor to be able to sit in this room and be a fly on the wall while 2 Gonzaga greats got to talk shop and talk all about Drew's career at Gonzaga, what's next for him, some Mark Few stories, some other fun stories, some name, image, likeness stories. Like it was a very unfiltered interview, and I don't think you would get this side of Drew in just like a short little 15-minute or even like 5-minute interview. It was a very unique experience, and when it releases in the next week or so, I will definitely put it on my feed, and I hope that you go listen to it, even if you aren't that huge of a Gonzaga fan, because Drew Timme is also just a great human as well. Yeah, I mean, you see him on the court, you see his passion for basketball, but he is so humble, and you wouldn't know, other than him being like 6'7", you wouldn't know that he is one of the greatest Gonzaga players of all time, or one of the greatest NCAA players currently in college. Like it's cool to see someone so down to earth and team focused, and just you can also like Ronaldo can just tell that his passion for basketball is limitless, and he's, no matter what happens after school here at Gonzaga, like Drew's going to be successful in whatever he does next. So go find that podcast on The Perimeter with Adam Morrison. And then in other special fun news, next Sunday, I will be back in the studio recording a podcast with Isaac Hauser, who is the owner and creator of Sando, which is a sandwich shop on Maple and Ash. It's where the old Taco Vado used to be, but now it's a drive-through spot where you can get breakfast sandwiches and lunch sandwiches. And I have not been there yet. I'm going to go there this week before I interview him, but the sandwiches I hear are amazing. Isaac is just amazing as well. He's such an interesting guy. I got to sit in another interview with him a couple weeks ago, and he just is doing cool things, and he's a really young chef doing cool things in Spokane. But the other really exciting news of that interview is I'm going to be doing it with the OG crew of Andrea Williams and Nate Martin. They're going to be joining me, and we're hopefully going to be doing 1 episode a month together for the foreseeable future. They're going to come in, and we're going to try to do at least 1 interview a month with all 3 of us and a 4th person. And I say I can't do this podcast without my current Patreon supporters, but Spokast would not exist without those 2. And I always want to get them back in the studio to do the podcast again, but I know time doesn't allow them to do a weekly podcast, but to be able to get them once a month to do the OG style of what Spokast is really how I foresee this podcast. And I enjoy doing the interviews by myself, but it's never the same when they're not here. And it's going to be a whole bunch of love going around during that interview, and being with them again in the studio is going to be a fun time. So again, thank you all so much for listening to Spokast. Thank you all for your support. And if you like what you're listening to, please, I don't ever talk about this. Please go rate the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and give it 5 stars if you can, or whatever you can give them on and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out a lot too, but I don't ask for reviews much, but it does help. And I always tell my podcast that I help produce, like, hey, you should tell your listeners to go review and rate. And please, if you can do that for me, that'd be great too. So, I will not keep you much longer. Here is my interview with master printmaker, Gonzaga professor, co-founder of Spokane Print and Publishing, and host on Hello Print Friend. Here is Reinaldo Gil Zambrano. Enjoy. Well, I've already introduced you if you're from the intro, but I'm sitting here with Reinaldo Gil Zambrano. Did I say that right?
Yeah, well, it's actually Gil
Zambrano. Okay, I should have asked you before. I should. I just assumed. But you're a printmaking artist and assistant professor of printmaking at Gonzaga University. And you also opened the Spokane Print and Publishing. You're the co-founder there, and you can find your murals all over the city, and your prints are. I've seen you at Bazaar. I've seen you at other events, and I'm just excited to get to know you more. We met because Luke Baumgarten introduced us because you needed to do a live podcast, and you used my space, and that was like over 6 months ago. And I was like, I need to get you on the podcast, and here we are. So thank you for coming on, Reinaldo.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. How did you find yourself in Spokane?
Well, so I went to Moscow, to the University of Idaho, to do my master's there. And in my 3rd year, I met my wife, Ashley Vaughn. So I wanted to, in that time we were still dating, so I wanted to stick around. I moved to Spokane, where she's originally from. And I got a job at Eastern Washington University teaching drawing and design. So, we like it. Once she graduated, she moved here. We pretty much just stay here.
Wow. And you're originally from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm. From Caracas, Venezuela, correct.
And how did you, I know you came to Spokane, was your first time in America going to the University of Idaho?
And no, I originally went close to Boise, Colwell, to the College of Idaho to do my undergrad.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was in 2009 to 2013. And that was the second time that I came to the United States, but the first time that I came as a student.
Okay, nice. And I guess I want to start with I want to kind of where did you get into how did the art start? Where did it all begin for a young Reinaldo?
Well, since I remember, I always liked to draw.
Yeah.
So I was really into watching comics or anime, Dragon Ball Z, all the stuff. And I also always like drawing on my walls. And my parents were really supportive because they even allowed me to paint and draw on my wall that was next to my bed.
Oh wow!
On the bedroom that I used to share with my brother growing up.
Yeah.
And it was one thing took to the other. I went to school to study science because in that time, there was not a lot of opportunities to study arts in high school.
Yeah.
But I was always painting backdrop for theater plays. I was also doing some graffiti with friends. I was always really involved into arts and watching videos and watching documentaries, collecting magazines about drawing. And I always loved going to the museums. And I felt that being an artist was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So there is no artists in my family. There are some musicians, but I always felt that everybody was really supportive. And I felt that was the biggest honor to have, which was to be an artist or to be called an artist. So that's why I always wanted to do since I was a kid.
So as a student in Venezuela, do you have to, do you pick a track of what you want to do? You said you were studying science, in high school, is that Is that how like most people go through high school? Like you pick something that you want to do and then kind of go with it?
Yeah, so it's like pretty much two areas. There is the science and the humanities. So depending on the school where you go, you can do any or the other. So, I mean, in the one that I went, it was mostly science. So you don't really pick your classes like you do here.
Yeah.
Like you have a set of classes and that's what you do until you graduate high school. Yeah, so that's basically what I did.
So how did you decide, like, I'm not going to pursue this anymore in high school and I'm going to do art? I want to do art.
Yeah, so I was always doing it like in my own time. But then when I graduated from high school, I was getting ready to, I always say this, like I was getting ready to become the worst architect ever, because that was the area of like career that somehow was associated with arts. And so, but I was lucky enough that I got a scholarship for the United World Colleges in Costa Rica. When I moved there, when I was 16 years old, I spent 2 years in this school. There was a beautiful international school, 75 kids from 72 different countries.
Oh, wow.
And that was the moment when I was able to like start taking really serious art classes.
Okay. So like high school's, I mean, I guess I wouldn't know this obviously, but high school is just a lot different in Venezuela. Like you left, so after high school, you went to this school.
Yeah. And like another high school.
I
did an international bachelor.
Oh, okay.
IB.
Yeah, and so then did that take you to then Caldwell and your first school?
Exactly, yeah, because I went to Costa Rica for 2 years, and then this international diploma, you can apply to any school in the world. So then, like, I mean, Shelby Davis, who is the sponsor of UWC's scholarships in the United States, he offered me a scholarship to go to the College of Idaho, and that's how I end up here in Potato Land.
No kidding.
Yeah.
It's, well, I guess you're pretty close to Boise, so like there's like that, there you have that big, because like Spokane and Boise are kind of, they're very similar in size. But you know, I think it's a little, I don't know, I mean, I haven't been to Boise in a really long time.
It changed a lot.
Yeah. What year did you get there?
2009 to 2013.
Okay. Wow. Did what was the? I mean, what was when you first came to America? Was it visiting like the first time?
Yeah, my parents took me to Orlando.
Oh, okay.
When we were growing up. Yeah.
So was it when you came here for school? Was it just a culture shock? Like, yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the same reaction that you had, the guy from the embassy when he was giving me my visa, he was just laughing at me when he saw where I was going. Because I was going to Idaho, right?
Right.
So then when I arrived there, of course, it was cultural shock because there was not a lot of international students in that school.
Okay.
And the town was really small in that moment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you definitely stand out. And my English was really bad in that moment. I mean, it's getting a little bit better, but in that time it was really, really basic. So it was a hard transition, like being in that level of college, trying to study without really knowing the language was definitely a challenge. So I pretty much started like hanging out more with American students to somehow force myself to learn the language. And it was a process, but it was amazing. It was hard, but it was amazing. But then, of course, like the community there wasn't used to like international students, so you can hear it somehow, like people being a little bit rude on the streets, right? Like saying stuff and whatever. But then what we decided to do, we got all the international students got together. We founded what was called the ISO, International Students Organization, and we started doing things to share our culture and bring the community inside, like to come in, you know. So we started doing like cultural shows. We started doing the International Food Festival. So little by little, like that trick made them curious. The community became curious, and they came to the schools and started to somehow interacting with us. And now, like I went there like 4 years ago to do a workshop. As a visiting artist, and the culture is totally different. Like everybody's like super welcoming, like and it doesn't feel that shock. So.
That's. I was gonna ask, like I'm not familiar with down there too much, but I was gonna ask if there is much of a Spanish community down there.
There is, especially in Nampa.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, in Boise and in, there is like, of course, because there is a lot of agriculture too.
Yeah.
So you're going to see Mexican communities.
Did you have any idea of where you were going? Like, you could probably see it on a map, obviously, but like, that has to be, going to Idaho is, I could see why someone would giggle.
And no, I didn't. And I was so excited that I was getting the opportunity to go with a full ride to study art that I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm just going to seize the moment, going to learn so much, and I'm going to make the things that I always wanted to make.
Nice.
So I didn't really care. But when I arrived, those 4 years were a little bit rough.
Yeah.
So then when I went back to Venezuela, I spent a year there, and then I applied for grad school. During that process, I was trying to go really far away from Idaho. Yeah. Like I wanted to go to Europe. I applied to UK, to different places. But the school that offered me a full ride was located in Idaho. So I went back. So the second time when I was flying to Moscow, I wasn't very happy. I wasn't excited, but I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to take this to focus on my art.
Yeah.
But it was a total different experience. Moscow is an amazing community, super welcoming, colorful. That was a great experience, those 3 years there.
Yeah.
I feel that that's one of the schools, is a gem. Like, I don't think people really appreciate the quality of education that you get there, especially in the art department. Is amazing.
That's I did not know that. That's awesome to know. I mean, it is a college. I mean, it's Moscow and then it's Pullman right next to each other, and so like you have, it is like I can understand why it is a little bit more of a better community because there's just so many students. I mean, it's those communities are built on those universities, sure. And then so you met your wife there, and then you moved to Spokane to become a professor.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'd been to Spokane before.
Yeah.
When you were moving here, like did you both have like ideas of where you wanted to, like what neighborhood did you decide to live in?
Well, I ended up in Brown's Additions in a really small like closet apartment where I usually joke that I can be sitting on the toilet and flipping the pancakes at the same time because it was that tiny.
Wow.
But getting out of grad school, not really money, like I didn't have a job. And so I was waiting until starting at Eastern. So that transition was a little bit rough, but it was fine. It allowed me to spend a lot of time by myself and get to learn. And also I was surrounded with carving in the floor of the kitchen. And it just makes me realize how spoiled we are when we go into school. The needs, the voids of not having a printmaking studio around available for you to continue pursuing your practice.
Oh wow! Well, I'm sure that's why the Spokane Print came into. I bet we'll talk about that in a little bit.
But yeah, like just to continue with that, I came to Spokane a couple times before in 2012 and 2011 because I used to date a girl that moved here. And I didn't like it at all.
Oh,
yeah! I remember that. I was like, "Oh my god, that place is always great." Like, the downtown was still developing,
right?
And I wasn't really excited. But this time when I came in 2017, it was totally different. Once you're immersed in a community, you really get to appreciate and see the potential on it.
Yeah.
So I was really excited.
Well, yeah, like if you came here in 2011 and you were looking for like an art scene, like. I mean, Terrain was just in the beginnings, and the art galleries we had the MAC, obviously. We have the MAC, but I don't even know if Terrain had a full-time gallery yet, and there wasn't much in terms of an art scene here yet. And I think First Friday started around that time as well. But yeah, that is interesting. I want to get into all this in the guts of the show. Before that, I want to break it up a little bit. I want to play a quick little game. It's called the Spokast Hot List. I'm gonna say a word, and you're gonna say the first word that comes to your mind as it relates to Spokane. And I always start with an easy one. Park.
Riverfront.
Okay. I think it's too easy. I always say park, and I think Riverfront Park gets it every time, just because you have to look at it when you walk into the stadium.
I'm going to say Manitou. Then.
Oh no! There you go. The second most popular. Coffee.
No, I don't really drink coffee. So
okay.
Yeah, I would say Atticus.
Okay. Music venue.
Man, I used to love the Bartlett, but lucky you.
Beer.
No lie.
Artist.
Daniel Lopez.
Burger.
Darkins.
Durkins, yeah. Sweet treats. Can be anything, like candy or any type of...
Well, ice cream from Kendall Yards. What is it called? The Scoop. Yes.
Shopping.
From here.
Of course. Breakfast or brunch?
Chaps.
Event.
Terrain.
Tacos.
Well, let's say cochinito.
Okay. Neighborhood.
Browns.
Pizza.
Tortolia? Tortonia? What is the name of it?
Versalia?
Yeah, Versalia. Yeah,
yes,
they switched.
They switched the name. Yeah.
Versalia.
And I'm going to ask this, and I don't even know if this exists in Spokane. Venezuelan food.
My house.
Okay. I was going to say that I think Spokane is most known for not having much diversity in their food at all. Like, I know you can go to like bigger cities and get fine Venezuelan food, but like, I don't even think I've ever heard of a Venezuelan place in Spokane.
Well, Feast Kitchen. I know that sometimes they have a Venezuelan chef there. I think her name is Alejandra. She cooks there sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah. Sometimes my wife and I would like to do hallacas and we give it to our friends. So we might join you too. Make you join the list too.
Okay. Yeah. What is like the main like type of, what is like a Venezuelan like meal?
Oh, well, I mean, we eat a lot of meat, a lot of rice, and it's a bunch of stuff. Like, I mean, black beans.
Okay.
Well, one of the most traditional things is arepas, which is basically a corn pancake.
Oh.
So imagine a tortilla, but it's thick, like a gordita, and you grill it on both sides, or you can eat it fry. And it has this really crunchy shelf, and then inside it's really soft. And you open it, you put butter, and you can stuff it with whatever you want.
Oh, like meat or any
beans. Yeah.
Man.
Well, I mean, we try to draw the line between the sweet. I know that my wife wants to put like honey and stuff on it, but I always tell her like, okay, give some dignity to the arepa, you know. But I mean, you can put pretty much everything, and you just eat it breakfast, dinner. It's really good.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. We already kind of talked about how you got into art, but I want to get into. So when you're an artist, like there's so many mediums that you're like playing with, like because there's paint, there's photography, there's film, there's so many different types of art that you can get into. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as you do relief printing. How did you get into that?
Yeah, so I was always drawing a lot, and I was doing a lot of charcoal and a lot of ink drawings based or pretty much inspired by graphic novels.
Okay.
So when I went to grad school, my friend Tim Han from Korea, he told me that I should try relief printmaking because my drawings seem like printmaker.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't realize that I was trying to pursue this graphic quality of my drawings. But then when I started looking at the prints, it kind of makes sense. So I got a piece of wood. He gave me some tools. I started carving, but it wasn't until I rolled the ink on top of that block and I printed I press it on a piece of paper and I pull it. That thing was kind of like magical because it was this instant moment. You can see everything really graphic, black and white. Yeah. And it was so crisp. And it's a texture that you cannot really replicate with anything else. Yeah. So since then I got really hooked. And also it was not just not just the process, but it was also the community next to it. Like printmakers are really close to each other. They're really supportive of each other.
Yeah.
You can email a printmaker and with a question, and that person is going to help you out.
Yeah.
Like there is always this sense of like sharing secrets about the practice, because printmaking is bigger than us.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to like somehow contribute to that tradition instead of like just keeping all the secrets for yourself.
I love that. So I have a really good friend who is a printmaker, or leaf printmaker. His name's Darren Smith. And when I mentioned that I was going to be interviewing you, he was like, "Oh, I know Reinaldo, and we used to do stuff together. And I know there used to be like a big, I don't know if they do it anymore, but it was in Coeur d'Alene. They would take a big, like a rolling truck. I don't know what you call it.
Asphalt roller.
Yeah. And were you part of that event?
Yeah, we started that crazy enough. I believe it's 7 years ago.
Okay.
With Jenny Hextech at the Merch Gallery.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we started, and that was inspired by, I mean, the first time that I saw that was in Montana with Professor Jim Bailey. He does the asphalt roller Day of the Dead project there for like 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So we decided to do that. So we invite artists from all over the region. They carve these massive blocks. I think the size is pretty much like 5 by 4 feet. And then we ink them all together. We use an asphalt roller as a makeshift press.
Yeah.
And then we just print this really big visual narratives, and we invite everybody to see the thing.
Yeah. And do you sell the print afterwards?
Yeah. Jenny is pretty good at that.
Yeah.
So it's a whole event, right? Like it's about highlighting the artist, highlighting the narrative, celebrate the community, pretty much like everybody pitching in order to print these things. And then, of course, like inviting people to the process of printmaking. And they get to see the narrative. There is usually a theme that we follow. Then people purchases the pieces.
That's amazing. When you were making the shift to doing relief printing, is that something that you decided in college? Like, I'm going to become a relief print artist?
No, I think it's just something that happened. Like I fell in love with it, and then I realized that I was just often drawing, carving.
Okay.
And then printing, because it was just so much fun. And every time that you do something, it looks a little bit different to what you were expecting. So you're never fully satisfied. So that pushes you to try it again. Yeah. And you keep just getting into this loop, of like just carving and printing and sharing it with people. And then I started to get invited to universities to do talks and do workshops. And then we opened the print shop and stuff. And it's just like, you're just so into it that it's really difficult to get out. But now, because I teach, I have been pushed to like gravitate to other pre-making processes like screen printing, etchings, because you need to teach it. And then also help you out to communicate to enrich your own practice.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you just have a passion for sharing and teaching. Like, was the plan after school to become a teacher?
No, my parents are teachers.
Okay.
And you know what they say in Spanish is like the son of the cat like hunts the mice. I don't know, I'm butchering that. but basically, I always find fascination for like sharing information with people and showing them the possibilities. And I also saw that with many projects that I have done, that when you allow people to take these massive projects, they're kind of overwhelming, and then they feel so empowered when they finish the project, and it's kind of like, and you can see them getting so excited and so happy. Then later on, that becomes kind of addictive, and then it's just like I have so much fun doing it that if I can share with other people and they have fun too, it just becomes this loop. And that took me into teaching. And Gonzaga offered me a tenure track position, and here we are now.
Wow. Yeah. That's really cool. I don't know where I'm struggling. I just feel like there's so many different directions to go right now. And what was when Gonzaga, you were teaching at Eastern, correct?
Yes.
But they approached you.
Yeah, well, no, it was adjunct. So I was an adjunct at Eastern, and COVID just hit. So, I mean, they didn't offer me another contract because when you're an adjunct, you just receive contracts every quarter.
Right.
But I was applying to the position, and yeah, so I went through the whole process, and I was offered the position after the selection process.
Nice.
So it was great because, I mean, I didn't have a job, and then they offered me this really amazing opportunity, and yeah, it just feels awesome.
Yeah. How big is the art program at Gonzaga?
Well, so we recently, like 2 years ago, we started the BFA program, the Bachelor in Fine Arts. So it's like really getting serious, you know. So I mean, we have a small faculty, a tenure track faculty, but we also have like adjuncts, right? Like our amazing adjuncts, and we have been seeing a growth after COVID in the amount of students that we have been getting. So that's really exciting because before I don't think people were thinking about Gonzaga as a place to study art, but now, like, I mean, they're considering that even more.
For sure.
Yeah.
So typically, like, if you can get your obviously graduate in arts, but the next step is usually to go get your BFA, correct? Not BFA, sorry.
Your MFA.
MFA.
Yeah. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you want to teach.
Right.
If you want to teach is the MFA, right? I mean, the MFA allows you to teach in a college level. However, I mean, the master program is like when you get an opportunity to go 2 or 3 years in a really demanding, like, process of making work and having critiques and having a cohort of people just pretty much like pursuing art making.
Yeah.
And it's just, I feel that the amount of growth that you get there is amazing. Yeah. If you go for the right reasons, and you're really invested in the process.
Well, like, as you said, college students they're kind of, you have all the best facilities when you're going to college. You have a place to do your art. You have you have a studio there. Like, you have you get your art shown. Like, when you're an artist by yourself, it's like, I mean, it's cutthroat. I mean, I would say it's cutthroat, but I mean, it might be. I don't really know the art world that well, but I know that, like, when you're out there on your own, like, it's hard to make a living at that. But going through like a university and going through those programs really probably helps prepare you for that.
It does help, right? Like, I mean, but however, there is something that that is necessary, right? You need to have the hunger and you need to have the desire and passion. You can go through any program, but if you don't have that, I mean, you don't really are going to be pursuing anything,
right?
So I mean, that's something that I admire for so many artists that haven't go through the programs, but they're still making killer work. And so I mean, that's kind of going to school is not necessary for making art, but it definitely help you to, like, work in your language, your visual language, make associations with art history in order to identify where is your space in history in a way. Right. But the most important thing is, like, having people around you who are also doing the same processes, making mistakes and sharing those experiences with you. Yeah. And the critiques.
And I guess this is why you helped create the Spokane Print and Publishing, right? Because I mean, that's just like a community for your art and for your style. When did Spokane Print start?
Well, we started, I believe, 5 years ago. Okay. And this was, I'm one of the many people who came together and did this. So as I mentioned, I found myself carving in the floor of my kitchen. I didn't have the equipment because that's why you go to school. That's where the equipment is. And this equipment is a little bit expensive and it's really heavy. Yeah. So you sometimes don't have it. So I was part of the Richmond Art Collective and I got a SAGA grant and I opened the RGC prints there. So we got a press and we moved it to the second floor on top of the Bartlett, which was awesome because during like the concert, I was printing and you can feel the whole floor like vibrating.
Awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. But anyway, so I then got approached by the Millwood Print Works, which was, Tom Caraway, Bethany Taylor and Derek Landers. Yeah. So they were looking for a new space. I was looking to make something bigger. And then we have Derek Freeland and Dorian Carahalios. And then later on, like Mel and Tuna like joined us too. So we all came together. We pitched in. We found this space, and now we opened the Spokane Print and Publishing Center.
Yeah, what is your main goal there?
Man, we want to offer space for people to be creative and continue practicing printmaking.
Mm-hmm.
So we have relief printmaking, relief intaglio, letterpress, like publishing and book binding, marbling, all these techniques and machines and instructors, so you can come as a member of the community, pay a really low fee, and have the space for you to produce work, and have access to these things, and also like get to a community with other makers, and continue pursuing your passion. That's awesome. Basically what we wanted to do, and it have been working.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many members do you guys have?
Wow, that's a really good question. I believe so. We have the annual members, and then we have the monthly members, and we also have like super members. We have like so many different things, but I believe we are like 30 something annual members, but maybe like around 40 people in total that come to use the space.
I love that, man. Yeah. I just like had the biggest idea come in my mind. I need to like make sure I remember it after I'm done here.
Let's talk. Yeah.
Like, do you offer? I believe you offer classes to the public as well, and like beginning ways for. Do you have like list a couple that you offer to the community?
We do intro classes.
Okay.
We offer really intro to lino cuts, intro to wood cuts, intro to letterpress, poetry classes to book binding, and like how to make your own books, like how to make covers. It's kind of like, and they're all like interconnected, because once you do a relief printing class and then you do a letterpress class, you kind of like make the illustration to the poem that you wrote, and you can print it on paper.
Yeah.
And then you can like print multiples and then fold those together and make a book.
Yeah.
So you take one class and then you continue taking more. And then at the end, when you see like you are, like spending pretty much like your whole week there. And it's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we offer those classes, and then people pretty much have access to that area in the space during open hours.
Do you do anything for kids?
Yeah. Well, we had done it in the past.
Okay.
But I mean, the thing is, like, many of the tools that we use are pretty dangerous. Yeah. So I mean, we have in the past, like, we often offer classes if you come with your parents.
Okay.
Like, you can do it, but we try to keep it like people who is older than 15.
Totally understand. I graduated from the Falls in graphic design, and we had to take an art class like as a prerequisite, and in that class we did some like relief printing. Like, we had those little, like, they're little tiny, this is not good for podcast, but like a little like 6x4 like little brick, like not a brick, but like you could cut
lino cut.
Thank you.
Linoleum.
And linoleum. And but the tool we used was like very, very sharp, and if you like kept your hand too close to it, you could like nick yourself. And I could see that. I was just thinking like, oh yeah, kids probably shouldn't be doing too much relief printing. They should probably start by just drawing.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing the easy art first, and before they get into the dangerous stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, there is a lot of liability there.
Yeah, because you also work with like rollers and stuff. Like,
exactly. And those presses are really, really heavy. You can really crush your hand or something. So we try to give as much guidance to our members, and and then they do their thing.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so cool. I need to come by and just check out the space. Yeah. Where's it located?
So it's 1921 North Ash. Right next to the Art Salvage.
Right next to Art Salvage.
We share the same building.
Yeah. Do you are you also close to the Maxwell House?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you go to the Maxwell House?
I went there once.
Okay.
And I had a burger there once, and then I think they were like renovating, so I haven't been back.
New owner. So Maxwell House is under new ownership. Yeah. And they're owned by a really cool group of guys, but their roasted chicken there is like
that's what I hear.
Amazing.
But I hear that after I ate the burger, so that's why I need to come back.
Right.
I need to come back. Yeah.
And so you probably went there with the original owners when they were there, and the original owners like they had to give the recipe to the new ownership to be in order to make it. But you should definitely go have the roasted chicken there. It's amazing.
I'll definitely do it.
Let's talk about your podcast. So, how we met was you came in and did an episode of your podcast, Hello Print Friend. You had a friend from LA, right?
Yeah, Pavel Acevedo. Yeah.
And you guys came in and did your podcast, and I think one of the really cool things about your podcast is that it's bilingual, and that like you are the Spanish host of it, and you interview a lot of Spanish speaking guests, and then you have another co-host.
Yeah, she's the producer.
Okay.
Yeah, Miranda Metcalf.
Okay. And she doesn't live in Spokane, correct?
No, she keeps moving everywhere. When I met her, she was in Australia.
Oh, wow.
And we met through Skype. And then a year later, after a year of collaboration, we met in Austin.
Oh, wow.
Imagine that. And then she moved to Thailand, and now she's in Santa Fe.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this idea, or who came up with this idea?
Well, Miranda started the podcast. At the beginning, it was called Pine Copper Lime in 2018, and she was doing it by herself with her husband. And it was basically to collect stories about printmakers in general from around the world.
Yeah.
Then during the pandemic, my friend Ben Munoz, who also came during that April with Pavel.
Yeah.
That was during Spokane Print Fest, which happens every April.
Yeah.
So we started doing this like Instagram interviews with people because we were, it was the pandemic. So then she invited me. She said, "Hey, you know what? Like, I really like the way that you talk to people and stuff. Like, would you like to collaborate?" And it was like, heck yeah. I want to do that. I want to talk to people about printmaking in Spanish. So I started collaborating with her. And we started developing these interviews with like printmakers from all over Latin America and Spain.
Wow.
And it's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been great. And I'm so happy and so excited because I have been able to meet some of my heroes through that podcast and then get to collaborate with them in person.
I guess that I should have led with that is that your podcast is all about printmaking and like different I keep on saying styles, but it's that I'm using the wrong term.
Techniques, processes.
And I was just like, okay, I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And I was like, going on and looking at the podcast, and I was like, oh, well, first of all, like Hello Print Friend has like, I don't know how many followers it has a ton of followers, and it's a huge podcast. A ton of people listen to it. And I was just like, it's so cool that this exists where all like people are being able to find a podcast, like especially for printmakers. I'm sure like if I was a printmaker, I would definitely want to listen to the podcast just to learn more about it. And what is like is the main part of it is just like learning about the person's background, how they got into it, and like, or is it more technical than that? I should say when I was sitting here, you're doing the Spanish version, and I don't know a lick of Spanish, unfortunately, and I didn't really know what you guys were talking about, but I would assume that it was about them and about their style. Yeah, no, definitely. We talk about how they came into art, what role art had when they were kids, like what pretty much like their history and how they got to be printmakers. Okay. But sometimes, I mean, like it's pretty organic, but they talk about their process, they talk about their influences, they talk about why printmaking is their main thing. Yeah. We sometimes go into technical stuff, but we don't really talk shop that much. Okay. Miranda, her husband, Timothy Pauschak, he offers a through Patreon, a thing called Shop Talk. Oh, okay. So he has a specific session that he does with the guests just to talk shop. Okay. But in my case, like sometimes I throw some of that, but I'm more interested about why they make. Yeah. And I feel that it's a beautiful story or podcast to listen while you're making, because
when you're a printmaker, you're often carving, spending all these hours like by yourself in a tiny little room sometimes or in a studio. And you feel that you're talking to a fellow artist who is also knowing that that process.
Yeah.
And it's really inspiring. But yeah, we throw some like printmaking jokes sometimes and things like that.
Right.
But it's been great because printmaking is not just like the relief and the intaglio and the lithography and the screen printing, but it's also the things that are created, the communities that are built through printmaking. Like we have people that use it as to create political posters. Pretty much like raise the voices of people that have been invisibilized for a while, like in Oaxaca. You see people that started like posters companies that now collaborate with local artists to make posters about the bands that come into Mexico. We see people that have been doing things related to recycling, installation work, and all these amazing things. It's just... Yeah, it's just like more than that. And what is also beautiful is that many people who are not related to printmaking have been finding that the community is so tight that then they contribute in another way. Like we have examples like the Printed Matter, Pressing Matter magazine that was developed by someone who is not a printmaker, and also the tiny print, the tiny press. I think that's how it's called, the tiny press project. During COVID, this guy like developed a 3D printed tiny press where you can print pretty much like 5 by 4 inches plates. And then he gave the design away for universities to build it so their students can have a press that they can take home and they can continue doing assignments.
Yeah, that's so... I love following your Instagram because when you have the artists come on your show, like you show like a lot of their process, like they will give you a video of like how they do it. And I love some of the tiny stuff that is made because it's just like, it's so, you don't think of you. Everyone thinks of the art as being like maybe like a certain size, and then but then you go to art shows and you see art that's like very, very small, but the detail that goes into it is it's mesmerizing, and it's really cool to watch on the Instagram feed. I would encourage anyone to go follow Hello Print Friend, and it's just it shows a ton of different styles and different. And like the thing about relief printing is like everyone has like, you can tell like what your style is versus like someone else's. Like it's a very unique art medium, and I think it's very. I think when people think of art, they also often think of paintings and different things, and I just love printmaking in that like you cut into this whatever material you want to use and make this piece of art, because like when you look at it, it looks so easy. It looks like something, not easy, I shouldn't say easy, it looks like you painted it, obviously, but like how it goes onto the paper is it's mesmerizing to me, like to see how these, because like everything that you see in like the either the print or like the paper color is the stuff that's not the stuff that's getting carved out.
Exactly.
And like, or am I opposite?
No, you're fine.
No, I'm right. I'm right. And I was just, and it's so cool. I often ask my friend who does it. I'm like, do you sell the original like
the block,
the
matrix?
Yeah,
sometimes,
because I was just like, that would be such a cool thing to have.
Yeah,
and because like I often wonder, like, because like often like a painter will spend, they'll make a painting and it will take them, like Daniel Lopez, as you mentioned, Godfidi here in Spokane. I went and met with him once, and he was doing a piece in his room, and I was like, well, how long does that take to do? And he's like, 3 to 4 weeks, maybe like hundreds of hours. And I'm like, and then he's going to turn around and sell it for however much he sells it for. And I'm like, even if you sell it for that much, it's still not worth it. Like, it's still like and I should ask about that, is like printmaking is different in that, like when you create a print, like you have like you have the original piece and you can keep on making it until you can sell the prints for, you know, a different price. But I was just like, but it's still like the time and effort put into it is still, that's the value of art is so strange to me.
Yeah. No, and it's true. And that's kind of like our mission too, right? Like when you get to teach the process to other people, they start to appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Because I feel that I believe that printmaking is cursed by the word print.
Yeah.
We also say print with something that comes directly from a printer.
Yeah.
Right? Like from, I don't know, like a laser printer or something like that you just press Control P and it comes out.
Yeah.
But once they take the class and they see what it takes, then they start, oh my gosh, that's why a print costs what it costs.
Right, for sure.
But it also, I mean, it's called the democratic multiples because you can make many. You can sell some, you can trade some, you can with pay some. And then at the end, you can pretty much distribute it with more people. And that can help you out to regulate the prices too.
Yeah. And watching what goes on like on your feeds, like I mean, this is even on Spokane Print. It's just like the different ways that how the technical aspects people put into even doing like a screen print where like they like do different color, like the way they pull it and the way they. It was just like I always like because I used to do screen printing like had a t-shirt shop, so I knew how to like pull, but like the way the artistic element to it, like where like I don't really explain this wrong, but like putting the different colors on the print and pulling it and then doing it again in a different color and how you get this final piece is just, it's amazing to watch.
Yes.
And I think, and I do think you're right. I think printmaking is kind of thought of as like a lesser style, and it's definitely not, especially the pieces, like I mean, especially if you like got into like marble like relief printing, like that's you got to have marble to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you mostly work on? What is like do you mostly do wood?
Yeah, I like working with wood. Like I do, well, some people might consider not to be wood, but MDF, medium density fiber, and also I use birch plywood. Okay. Those are my two favorite pretty much matrices that I like to carve.
How thick are they?
I do a 1/4 inch sometimes because I'm running out of space.
Right.
And also a 1/2 inch.
Okay.
Yeah. When we do the asphalt rollers, we often do 1/2 inch.
Yeah. And you also do murals around Spokane. I mean, how many murals have you done?
I don't know. I think maybe 5 or 6.
Okay.
Where's not that many.
Where's the most most public one?
Well, the one in Riverfront Park that I did for Mac Daddy's. Okay. That one is right in front of the park. Oh yeah. In the mall. And there is also the Feast Kitchen. That one is kind of public, and then there is the Baba one. Okay, so I did Baba, yeah. And
obviously, those aren't relief prints because it's a mural. So do you still do some like different styles? Like, do you still paint? Do you like as an artist? Like, I know like a lot of my friends who have like a certain style, they still often branch out and do other things just to either test themselves or to like, because I imagine when you have an idea too, you're also probably sketching that out.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I sketch and then sometimes like I turn that drawing into a print. But I mean, the way that I make my murals is often the same way that I carve. So, or as I draw. Actually. Okay. So I always had that problem. Like I thought like, oh my God, I don't know how to paint. But then I started looking at artists that they take their drawings and the way that they approach drawing, the additive process. And that's how they pretty much like do their murals. So I don't really paint murals. I pretty much like draw murals. Yeah. So I just change my medium and I use India ink or acrylic paint, but I pretty much do them the same way that I draw, like doing cross hatching, isometric perspective, like things like pretty much like using the line as a way to create the value and then the three-dimensionality of the piece.
I love that. I should talk about, so your teacher, you were part of helloprintfriend, you also part of Spokane Print, you also have RGZ Prints. Is that another company in itself as well?
Yeah, that's my own thing. So this is kind of like my print my print name, and everything that I do related to like wearables and also my artwork is under the RGC print.
Yeah. Is this like this? Is this new? Is it? I don't know. I don't feel like I've seen this.
Yeah, well, the logo, this is something that I started drawing since I was 14 years old. Like this fish with a gas mask. And then I put it into a thing, and my wife helped me out with the logo. But yeah, I started releasing t-shirts like probably the last 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have been doing a series related to Spokane landmarks. And then I also do my own designs that I have in my website, the rgcprints.com.
Yeah. I got to say, I was surprised with I am a contributor or a supporter of Terrain, and last year in the mail I was not expecting this, but I received a print from you saying that we all build this, and it has it has Riverfront Park and we build this in it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and I saw your mark on it, and at the time I've even bought your shirt, your Spokane shirt down at from here, and I didn't know it was you, and so I have all this art before I knew you because I just loved it, and I just your style is it's really cool to look at,
thank you.
And your art is so it's really amazing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And so you often go to festivals, art festivals, and sell your art, correct?
Yeah, I do that. So I have been pushing my work out of the state. That have been my goal for the last year and a half.
Okay.
So I got invited sometimes to go to Print Austin, for example, which is an amazing event that the organization Print Austin does. I'm gonna be flying to Santa Fe in April because I got invited to another exhibition there.
Cool.
And there is also a print fair there, and I have been having that opportunity to travel around. I'm also part of a group of artists called the Siete Printers. So we do like printing events around the United States. We have been doing some stuff in Texas. We're gonna be going to LA in September. And then, of course, like we have the In Rally. We also sell prints there. We have the Spokane Print Fest that is happening every April. We're going to have also some fairs, demonstrations, workshops, and exhibitions there. So yeah, I feel printmaking is pretty much that. Like you make friends around the pretty much the state, and they invite you to the things, and then you stay with them, and you continue making stuff.
That's so cool. It seems that like when you say this community, like I'm all about building the Spokane community as just like a community as a whole. But like when you get into the smaller communities, art communities, or I'm just like, it's so cool that the printmaking community is so strong knit, because I just think we often want to fight each other and think of each other as competitors in this space, or in certain spaces. And I think about podcasting a lot. I'm just like, there's some competition there, and I'm like, it's so much. Your work is so much stronger when you come together to create, and then to try to like live on an island, because I just think like when you're on an island, it just becomes hard.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And you mentioned something really important. I mean, and I showed this to my students, like we are doing the same technique that people were doing 400 years ago. Mm-hmm. The materials might change, but everybody has the same. Right now, everybody has a piece of linoleum, and I give you a pencil and a carving tool. And we're 100 people here, everybody's going to do something totally different. So when you put your ego aside there and you like contribute to each other, just as you say, like we help to empower each other and be better. And somehow like fill the voids, in each one of our strengths or weaknesses. Yeah. But the other thing too that happens, there is still competition between printmakers.
For sure.
I mean, I see my friend Ben Munoz. I mean, on Fridays I feel kind of lazy, like I don't want to do anything. And then I see my friend Ben Munoz like pulling these big prints. It's like, no, I need to get my crap together and start working. Yeah. So yeah, like that is this thing, but it's also this larger vision, that we're contributing to printmaking to a media that have been somehow through history pushed like something that is not as valuable as painting, for example. But you will be surprised of how many of your favorite painters, like Picasso, did printmaking. But people don't know about it.
That's true. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, because I mean, also printmaking was probably a good way back in the early 1900s, or before like commercial printing started happening. Like it was a good way to probably, if you were an artist, to make money in a more like having more pieces to sell.
Yeah, exactly. And also like to spread the word.
Yeah.
That was basically the main idea. And there's something else that is beautiful about printmaking is like many of the revolutions that we have in history started because of a print that was multiplied. People didn't know how to read, but they had an image and they saw it repeated so many places that then like people started like activating and seeing themselves reflected, and then that sparked something within themselves, and then they went and pursued that.
That's so true. I mean, in popular culture, you see it a lot now with Shepard Fairey, what he did, and like we are a posse? I forget the actual term, but like, and then obviously Believe, or was it Believe? What Obama's poster? But yeah, you're right. That's so true. The history of art is so amazing, and I think people really should spend more. I should spend more. I'm not saying you. I should spend more time learning about the history of art, just because it's so fascinating.
Yeah, come to the print shop.
I absolutely will.
The first step. Yeah.
How can people see your art now? Like, I know you can get on your Instagram at RGZ Prints, or is it just RGZ?
RGZ Prints.
Okay, and that's how you can see it virtually. But how can you see your stuff in person?
Well, I mean, you can come to the Spokane Print and Publishing Center. Usually there on Mondays. You can check the rgcprints.com page, the reinaldogilzambrano.com. We're going to be having a show in April for the Print Fest, the Spokane Print Fest. And that's going to be the first Friday at the Terrain Gallery. We're having a beautiful cohort of national artists and also international ones. We're going to do some demos there. And then, of course, we will have the fair to kick off the Spokane Print Fest at the Hive. And that will be, I believe, April 2nd. Or 1st. That's a Saturday. Yeah. So yeah, come by and see prints. Pretty much like people making prints, and also you can purchase your favorite artist's prints here too.
Absolutely, that's so cool. And I want to say, I did not even know about. I know about the Print Fest. I did not know it was happening in April, and this is coming out in March. And what a happy accident, because when I was asking to come on, I was just like, I told Renaldo I'd have him on the podcast sometime, but this is awesome that this worked out so well. It was meant to happen like this.
Awesome, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, seriously, check out SpokanePrintFest.org.
Okay.
You can see the whole program in there. We have exhibition in different locations around town. We have workshops that some of your favorite regional artists are teaching. And then also we have demonstrations. It's just like many, many things. And then we have a celebration to close everything, because Spokane Print and Publishing Center will be turning 1 more year old.
Awesome.
And we're going to celebrate that.
I get it. So like this is all comes in with your anniversary, the Spokane Print anniversary.
Exactly. Yeah,
awesome.
the SPPC. Yeah.
So how many years will it be now?
I believe 6.
6 years.
Or 5. Yeah, something like that.
Well, as soon as you hit 2 means you've made it. Obviously in this world it's a little, but that's awesome that you guys have been around for 5 years, and I think it will. I hope that it will be around forever.
Yeah, no, so. We survived COVID,
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks to our members, and we're still going strong. So yeah, you guys should check it out. On an unrelated note, like you were talking about the best taco place, I will say De Leon. Sorry.
Okay.
Going back.
It's funny. My last guest said the same thing. De Leon had really good tacos, and honestly, I've had their burritos, and I've never tried their tacos.
Yeah.
So
carnitas, man. Those are the ones.
Well, we're ending up the show, but before we end the show, I always got to ask the question that I always end it with is, why Spokane?
Because it's a vibrant community that is really supportive and offers so many opportunities for people, for our students, and for our makers to have materialize an idea and see it having a direct impact with the people who live here.
Yeah,
I love that. I mean, and I feel that that's why Spokane is so amazing. Like you can see it with Terrain, there's PPC, like so many other organizations that, I mean, they do something here. People support them and they bloom.
Yeah. I mean, when you say Saga Grants, I always think Spokane Arts.
Of course, Spokane Arts.
Like they do so much to help artists in the community, make it happen by helping them get access to grants and stuff like that. And I think, and I also don't think all artists know of all the opportunity to receive these types of things. Like, I mean, I imagine it's easy to find it, but not everyone knows about it.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, you need to be looking, but there is definitely all these people from these organizations. They're really like eager to help. Yes. And they put a lot of stuff there. And that's why like I need to thank you about having this space too, because it allows to like reach out a different audience, and highlight the many, many things that are happening right here. It's so exciting to be living in Spokane right now.
It is.
I love it.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's why I started this podcast with my friends 5 years ago, and why I ended up starting Spokast as a company. I just think like Spokane is really changing, and it's changing for the better. And I know we have a lot of work to do still, but
of course,
but there's a lot of amazing people that are doing amazing things.
Yeah, and I mean, and the people who came, Pavel came last April. Killjoy, all those artists that came from Texas, they were so amazed with the things that are happening here, the vibe, the opportunities, the print studio, the fact that we have the falls going through the downtown area. They were just so excited, and they didn't realize of the amazing things that we have here. And I feel that when you're living in the space, it's a little bit harder sometimes to realize the amazing things that are happening around you.
Yes, definitely. I think it's hard. Like, it's easy to criticize the city that you live in when you've been there your whole life. Yeah. And then when you take a step out and you see other places, you realize, like maybe it's not as bad in Spokane as I think it is, especially when you visit other places. Yeah. But I will say, like, Spokane has its faults, but I think we're all doing. I think it's getting a lot better. So, again, Reinaldo, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, peace.
Gonna do it like me, 'cause there ain't nobody like me. Can't nobody do it like me. Hell no. You ain't seen nothing like me, like me, 'cause there ain't nobody like me. Hell no. Can't nobody do it like me. You ain't seen nothing like me, Don't you just wanna love yourself? I said it's all about you and no one else. I said, don't you just wanna love yourself? Let me hear you sing it louder. Don't you just wanna love yourself? I said it's all about you and no one else. I said, don't you just wanna love yourself? Let me hear you sing it louder. Gonna do it like me, 'cause there ain't nobody like me. Can't nobody do it like me. You ain't seen nothing like me, like me. 'Cause there ain't nobody like me. Can't nobody do it like me. You ain't seen nothing like me,
This is a production of Spokast Production Studios, located in Spokane, Washington. Our city, our stories. And a big thank you to Jinx Universe for letting us use his song, Like Me, from his latest album, Make It Look Good. Peace.